The alarm had been quiet for 3 days. That was the first sign something was wrong. Una sat at her monitoring station in Earth's Deep Space Communications Center, staring at the empty signal box where New Haven's daily transmission should have appeared. She had checked the equipment twice. Everything worked perfectly. The silence came from the other end. Still nothing? Her supervisor asked, walking past her station. No, sir. 3 days now. Una pulled up the colony records on her screen. New Haven has never missed a check-in. Not once in 14 years. The supervisor frowned. Send it up the chain. Flag it as priority. Within hours, the report reached Admiral Tay's desk at Fleet Command. He read it while drinking his morning coffee, then set the cup down slowly. New Haven was a farming colony. 8 million people. Most of them families. Children. His own daughter had friends there, kids she talked to over video calls. Get me Captain Wu, Tay said to his aide. Tell him to prep the Wanderer for immediate departure. Captain Wu received the orders while his crew was on shore leave. He called them back without explanation. They grumbled until they saw his face. Then they just moved fast. The Wanderer was a scout ship, small and fast, designed for long-range investigation. It had a crew of 30. We're checking on New Haven, Wu told his officers as they broke orbit from Earth. Communications went dark 3 days ago. His pilot, Jin, glanced at him. Just communications? We'll know in 3 weeks. The journey felt longer than usual. The crew was quiet. Everyone knew someone on New Haven. It was one of the oldest colonies, the kind of place people retired to. Good soil, clean air, safe. When they finally dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Haven system, Jin's instruments lit up with warnings. Captain, I'm reading debris. Lots of it. Jin's voice was tight. Metal fragments. Consistent with ship hulls. Wu stood behind his chair. Life signs? Scanning now. The science officer, Hana, worked her console. Seconds passed. Then minutes. Her hand stopped moving. No, nothing. No active transmissions. No power signatures from the surface. No orbital platforms. They're just gone. Take us in, Wu said quietly. Standard approach. As they drew closer to New Haven, the debris field became visible through the windows. Twisted metal that used to be transport ships. Cargo haulers. Civilian craft. Jin counted at least 40 destroyed vessels. They were trying to evacuate, he whispered. The planet itself looked wrong. New Haven was supposed to be green and blue, covered in farmland and forests. Instead, massive dark scars covered the continents. Smoke still rose from some areas, visible from orbit. Those are impact craters, Hana said, her voice shaking. Plasma bombardment, recent, maybe a week old. Wu gripped the back of Jin's chair. Take us down. Find a stable landing zone. They sat down near what used to be the capital city. Wu insisted on being part of the landing team. He had to see it himself. When the airlock opened, the smell hit them first. Burned plastic. Scorched earth. Death. The city was gone. Not damaged. Gone. Buildings had been melted into glass. Streets were blackened rivers of slag. They found shapes in the wreckage that might have been people once. No one spoke. They just walked through the destruction, recording everything. Hana found the evidence 3 hours into the search. Energy signatures embedded in the melted structures. She ran them through the ship's database twice to be sure. Valnir, she said. The weapon signatures match Valnir plasma cannons. Military grade, the Dominion did this? Jin looked sick. But why? New Haven had no military presence. No strategic value. It was just farms. They searched for 2 more days. Every city showed the same pattern. Systematic destruction. No military targets because there were no military targets to hit. Just homes, schools, hospitals. All of it burned. On the 3rd day, they found the mining shelter. It was built deep underground, designed to protect workers during solar storms. The door was sealed but intact. When they opened it, they found her. A girl, maybe 9 years old, sitting in the corner with her knees pulled to her chest. Alive. Her name tag said Rin. She didn't speak. Didn't cry. Just stared at nothing. Get her to the ship, Wu ordered. Hana searched the shelter. There might be records, there were. Rin's father had been a surveyor. He kept his equipment in the shelter, including a data recorder with military-grade shielding. The recording was still intact. Wu watched it in his ready room. He watched it alone first because he needed to know what he was about to send back to Earth. The recording showed the sky filling with ships. Massive warships bearing Valnir markings. They appeared without warning. No hails, no demands, just arrival. Then the broadcast. A Valnir admiral's face, features cruel and certain. His voice came through in broken human language. You expand too far into space. This is lesson. Learn your place. The bombardment began before the colony governor could respond. Wu watched the plasma fire rain down, watched buildings explode, watched the desperate evacuation attempts that ended in fire. The governor tried to surrender 40 minutes in. He broadcast on every frequency, begging them to stop. The Valnir ships ignored him. They just kept firing. 4 hours. The attack lasted 4 hours. When it ended, nothing moved on New Haven except smoke. Wu shut off the recording. He sat in the dark for a long time. Then he went to medical, where Rin was being treated. She was asleep, sedated. A nurse sat beside her. Will she recover? Wu asked. Physically, yes. Mentally. The nurse shook her head. She watched her parents die. Everyone she knew. She's the only one left, Captain. Wu looked at the small girl. She should be in school right now, playing with friends, learning and laughing. Instead, she was the sole survivor of 8 million people. He returned to the bridge. Jin, plot a course back to Earth, maximum speed. Hana, compile all evidence. Every scan. Every image. And that recording. Sir, are we sending this to Fleet Command? Hana asked. No, Wu said. We're sending it everywhere. Every human colony. Every station. Everyone needs to see what happened here. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. Rin woke up on the second day. She still didn't speak, but she held the nurse's hand. Sometimes she would draw pictures. They were all the same. Fire falling from the sky. When they arrived at Earth, Wu transmitted everything before they even docked. The recording of New Haven's final moments went out across the human network. Billions watched it. They watched children burning. They watched homes melting. They watched the Valnir Admiral deliver his message. The United Earth Council convened within hours. Wu was called to testify. He stood before the representatives of 47 worlds and told them everything he'd seen. They weren't testing our defenses, he said. They weren't sending a warning. They were exterminating us like insects. 8 million civilians. No provocation. No mercy. The council chamber erupted in shouts. Anger. Fear. Calls for peace mixed with demands for war. Ambassador Kai stood and tried to argue for diplomacy. His voice was drowned out by the others. Then Admiral Tay rose from his seat in the military section. The chamber quieted. Everyone knew Tay. He'd served for 40 years. He'd fought pirates and raiders. He'd protected colonies. He'd always chosen restraint when possible. He looked across the assembled leaders of humanity. When he spoke, his voice was calm and cold. We will answer. 3 words. That was all. But everyone understood the debate was over. Humanity was going to war. President Su stood before the cameras, knowing that every human in the galaxy was watching. She had spent 3 hours writing her speech, then thrown it away. Some moments demanded truth, not poetry. 6 days ago, the Valnir Dominion destroyed New Haven Colony. 8,300,000 civilians were murdered. Men, women, and children. They were farmers, teachers, artists, and builders. They threatened no one. They asked only to live in peace. She paused, letting the weight of those numbers settle. The Valnir believed we were weak because we chose peace. They will learn that choosing peace and being incapable of war are not the same thing. As of this moment, every military yard, every defense station, and every able citizen is called to service. We will answer this crime. We will ensure it never happens again. The broadcast ended. Within hours, every human world began to mobilize. Factories that built farming equipment started producing armor plating. Shipyards that constructed cargo haulers switched to warships. Scientists who studied distant stars began working on weapons. Admiral Tay stood in the military planning center, surrounded by holographic displays showing fleet positions and production schedules. He had barely slept since New Haven. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that recording, heard the screams. Admiral, we have the preliminary numbers, his aide said, handing him a datapad. Tay scanned the report. 47 worlds contributing resources. 500 warships under construction or being pulled from reserve. 200,000 Marines volunteering. The numbers were staggering. Humanity was unified in a way it had never been before, but numbers weren't enough. They needed to understand their enemy. Commander Bin worked in a windowless room in the Intelligence Division building. He had been trying to infiltrate Valnir information networks for years with limited success. The Dominion was paranoid and well protected, but now, with war declared, he had access to resources he'd never had before. Try the mining guild networks, he told his team. The Valnir military uses them for supply chain coordination. Less security than the main networks. It took 4 days, but they got in. What they found was both encouraging and terrifying. The Valnir Dominion controlled 23 worlds. Their total population was over 12 billion. They had been building their empire for 600 years, conquering every species they encountered. Their philosophy was simple. Strength proved itself through dominance. Mercy was weakness. The weak deserved destruction. They haven't fought a real war in 2 centuries, Bin reported to Admiral Tay. They've crushed primitive species and absorbed their territories, but they haven't faced an enemy with equal technology in generations. So they're arrogant, Tay said. Extremely. Their military doctrine hasn't evolved. They rely on overwhelming force and intimidation. They expect enemies to surrender when they see Valnir power. Bin pulled up tactical data. New Haven was supposed to be a warning. They thought we'd submit immediately. They thought wrong. Tay visited Rin every day. The girl was staying in a military medical facility under constant care. She had started speaking in her 3rd week on Earth. Single words at first, then short sentences. The doctor said she was making progress, but Tay could see the damage in her eyes. "Do you like drawing?" he asked one day, sitting beside her bed. Rin nodded. She was sketching something on a pad. "What are you drawing?" She turned the pad around. It showed a garden, flowers, a house, 2 adults and a child standing together. "That's my family," she said quietly. Before, Tay felt something break inside his chest. "It's beautiful. I want to remember them happy." Rin looked at him. "Not the fire. I want to remember them before the fire." "You will," Tay promised. "And Rin, I promise you something else. No other child will lose their family the way you did. We're going to make sure of it." She studied his face for a long moment. "Will you hurt people like they hurt us?" The question stopped him. "We'll stop the ones who did this. We'll make sure they can't hurt anyone else. But not the children, not the regular people. No. Never the children." Rin nodded and went back to her drawing. That conversation stayed with Tay. He thought about it during strategy meetings, when officers suggested ways to strike fear into the Valnir population. He thought about it when the more aggressive admirals wanted to discuss planetary bombardment as retaliation. "We target military assets only," he announced during one heated planning session. "Orbital defenses, warships, bases, and command centers. Civilian populations are not targets." "They didn't spare our civilians," Admiral Kwan argued. "Why should we spare theirs?" "Because if we become them, then New Haven died for nothing." Tay's voice was hard. "We fight to protect life, not destroy it. That's the difference between us and the Dominion." Engineer Ara worked around the clock in the research station. She was young, brilliant, and angry. Her sister had lived on New Haven. Had lived. "Show me what you've got," Tay said, visiting her lab. Ara brought up holographic designs, stealth frigates using new sensor-dampening technology. They can get within strike range before being detected. Plasma lance destroyers with focusing arrays that can punch through any known shield at range. And these? She highlighted a new design. Kinetic bombardment platforms. We launched tungsten rods from orbit. No explosives. Just mass and velocity. They can take out a hardened bunker with pinpoint accuracy and 0 collateral damage. The stealth ships are ready. 12 are in final testing now. We'll have 50 within 4 months. Tay studied the designs. Ara had created weapons of surgical precision. Tools to dismantle an enemy military without butchering their population. "Good work, Admiral," Ara said as he turned to leave. "Make them pay." "We will." Strategist Hyun spent weeks analyzing every recorded Valnir military engagement. The Dominion had conquered dozens of species. Each time followed the same pattern. Overwhelming show of force, brutal first strike, then demands for immediate surrender. "They've never had to adapt," Hyun explained to the command staff. "Every enemy either surrendered or was too primitive to fight back. They don't know how to respond to sustained resistance. So we hit them where they're overconfident," Tay said. "Exactly. Their outer colonies will be lightly defended. They've never needed strong defenses. We strike fast, disable their ability to coordinate, then move to the next target before they can respond." The months passed. Ships took shape in orbital yards, Marines trained in every combat scenario. Intelligence continued mapping Valnir positions. The entire human civilization bent itself toward a single purpose. Captain Wu was promoted to Commodore and given command of a battle group. Jin stayed as his pilot. They oversaw the final trials of the new warships, testing them to their limits. They handle well, Jin reported after a simulation run. Fast, maneuverable. These stealth frigates are incredible. They'll need to be. Wu looked at the fleet assembling in orbit. 500 warships, each one built with purpose. Each one representing humanity's answer to New Haven. 6 months after the massacre, the fleet was ready. Admiral Tay stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dreadnought Justice. Behind him, stretching across space, was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. He opened a channel to all ships. 500,000 souls listening. "We didn't want this war," Tay said. "We built our colonies to grow food and make homes. We reached into space not to conquer, but to spread life and hope." The Valnir Dominion saw that as weakness. They came to our world and murdered millions. They thought we would be afraid. He paused, looking at the faces on his bridge. Young and old. Afraid and determined. All of them volunteers. We are afraid. Fear is wisdom. But we will not let fear stop us. We will not let cruelty go unanswered. We go now to face an enemy that has conquered for 600 years. They think themselves invincible. We will teach them that they are not. We will show them that humanity does not forgive the murder of children. We will show them that peace is not weakness. The fleet began to move, hundreds of ships aligning for the jump to faster-than-light travel. On Earth, Rin watched from her hospital window. She could see the lights of the departing ships, bright points rising into the night sky. She pressed her hand against the glass. "Be safe," she whispered. Then the ships vanished, jumping into the darkness between stars, carrying humanity's fury toward the empire that had made the greatest mistake in its history. They had attacked the humans. Now the humans were coming. 6 months after the Battle of Valnora Prime, the galaxy watched as Grand Regent Talvor stood before the Galactic Assembly Tribunal. The courtroom was on a neutral station, overseen by representatives from 18 different species. Humanity had insisted on neutral judges. They wanted justice, not revenge. Commander Bin sat in the evidence section, surrounded by data cores and recorded files. Everything that proved what happened at New Haven. Everything that showed the Valnir Dominion's 600 years of conquest and cruelty. "The evidence is clear," the lead judge announced. After 3 weeks of testimony, the Valnir Dominion, under Grand Regent Talvor's command, committed genocide against the human colony of New Haven. 8,300,000 civilians were systematically exterminated without provocation or mercy. Talvor stood silent. He'd stopped defending his actions after the first week. What was there to say? The recordings didn't lie. The mass graves didn't lie. The ashes didn't lie. Grand Regent Talvor and 12 members of the High Command are sentenced to life imprisonment without possibility of release. Lower-ranking officers will face individual tribunals. Those who showed mercy or attempted to protect civilians will receive reduced sentences. The gavel struck. The Dominion was officially dead. On Earth, President Su announced the Marshall Plan. Humanity would help rebuild the former Valnir territories. Not as conquerors, as partners in peace. "They attacked us because they thought we were weak," Su said in her address. "We showed them we were strong. Now we'll show them we're also kind. That's the humanity I want the galaxy to see." The plan was ambitious. Engineers, teachers, doctors, and builders would go to Valnir worlds. Help restore infrastructure. Help build new governments. Help them learn what it meant to live without empire. Engineer Ara led the first reconstruction team to Valnora Prime. She walked through the capital city, seeing Valnir civilians watching her with fearful eyes. They expected punishment, expected occupation. "We're here to help," Ara said through translators. "Your military is gone. Your empire is done. But you're not. You get to decide what comes next." She started with the power grid, then water systems, then hospitals. The Valnir watched in confusion as humans worked to help them. Some remained hostile. Most were just bewildered. "Why?" a Valnir engineer asked Ara as they repaired a damaged power station together. "We killed your people." "Why help us?" "Because my sister died on New Haven. Era said quietly. She believed in building things, creating things, helping people. If I spent my life hating you, she'd have died for nothing. But if I can help build something better, then maybe her death meant something. The Valnir engineer had no response to that. The cultural change came slowly. The Valnir had been taught for generations that strength meant domination, that mercy was weakness, that inferior species deserved conquest. Unlearning that took time. Admiral Tay retired from military service. He'd done what he set out to do, stopped a threat, protected humanity. Now he wanted to do something else. He opened a school. A small place on Earth for orphans from all species. Children who'd lost parents to war, disaster, or tragedy. Human children. Valnir children, others. Rin was the first student. Now 12 years old, she'd started speaking more. The nightmares came less frequently. She was learning to smile again. "Why are you doing this?" someone asked Tay at the school's opening ceremony. He looked at the children playing together. Human and Valnir kids teaching each other games, learning each other's languages. "Because I saw what hate creates," Tay said. "I saw what it cost. I don't want any more children to pay that price." Captain Wu became an admiral and took command of the reformed defense fleet. Humanity had learned a hard lesson. Peace required strength to maintain it. The new fleet was smaller than the wartime force but more advanced, ready to defend, never eager to attack. "We're not conquerors," Wu told his officers during their first training exercise. "We're guardians. We protect. That's our mission." Jin remained as his flag captain. They'd fought together, survived together. Now they'd build peace together. Commander Mina retired from active combat duty and started writing. Her book, Victory Without Vengeance, became required reading at military academies across a dozen species. She wrote about the choices humanity made during the war. The restraint shown, the mercy given. "We could have become monsters," she wrote in the final chapter. "The Valnir gave us every excuse. But we chose to remain human. That's the real victory." Marine Commander Sung trained the new Galactic Peacekeeping Force. Representatives from multiple species learning to work together, learning to resolve conflicts without genocide. "Your enemy today might be your neighbor tomorrow," he taught his students. "Fight when you must, but never forget that your enemy is still a person." Strategist Hyun became a professor of ethics in warfare. He taught at universities on multiple worlds using the Valnir War as a case study. "The question isn't whether you can destroy your enemy," he'd tell students. "It's whether you should. And if you do fight, how you fight matters as much as winning." Commander Bin joined the diplomatic corps. His intelligence skills translated well to negotiation. He helped integrate former Dominion worlds into the Galactic Cooperative Council. They're learning, Bin reported to President Su 2 years after the war. The younger Valnir especially. They're starting to see their empire for what it was. It'll take generations, but change is happening. The galaxy changed too. Other species watched what humanity did. Some feared human military power. They'd seen 500 warships dismantle an empire that had stood for 6 centuries, but others respected humanity's restraint. The fact that humans could have exterminated the Valnir but chose not to. That meant something. It meant humans could be trusted with power. The Galactic Security Council invited humanity to join. President Su accepted on behalf of all human worlds. "We'll join," she said. "But we come as partners, not as rulers. We've seen what empire creates. We want no part of it." Ambassador Kai, who'd once argued for pure diplomacy, now advocated for something different. Peace through demonstrated strength, he called it. "Show the galaxy we can fight, but also show them we choose not to when possible." New Haven remained empty. The planet was declared a memorial world. No one would ever live there again. Instead, a single monument was built where the capital once stood. The monument was simple. A black wall with 8,300,000 names carved into it. Every victim, every life lost. The inscription read in 47 languages. They sought to teach us fear through cruelty. Instead, they taught the galaxy that humanity will travel any distance and overcome any force to protect the innocent. Not for conquest, not for glory, for justice, for remembrance, for peace. Tay visited every year on the anniversary. He'd walk along the wall, running his fingers over the names. So many names, so many lives that should have continued. Rin came with him this year. She was 15 now, taller, stronger, still carrying scars but learning to live with them. She found her parents' names on the wall, placed flowers beneath them. Do you think they'd be proud? She asked Tay. Of what we did? What we didn't do? Tay thought about that question. About the war. About the choices made. About the mercy shown. I think they'd be proud you survived, he said, and that you still believe in kindness after everything you saw. Sometimes I dream about them, Rin said quietly. Not the fire anymore. Just them, happy before. That's good. Remember them that way. They stood in silence as transport ships passed overhead, new colonists heading to other worlds. Humanity was still expanding, still building. But now the galaxy knew what happened to those who threatened human civilians. They knew humans could fight. More importantly, they knew humans could win and still choose mercy. 50 years passed. The generation that fought the war grew old. Some died, but their children remembered, and their children's children learned. On Valnora Prime, a Valnor teacher named Kalas taught history to young students. He'd been a child during the war, remembered the fear, the confusion, the shame of learning what his empire had done. Why didn't the humans destroy us? A student asked. We would have destroyed them. Kalas had asked that same question once. He'd learned the answer over a lifetime. That's exactly why they won, he said, and why we deserve to lose. They knew the difference between justice and revenge. We didn't. But sir, doesn't that make them weak? Showing mercy? No. Kalas pulled up historical images, showed his students the Battle of Valnora Prime, 700 Valnir warships destroyed. An empire that lasted 6 centuries ended in 8 months. They proved they were strong. Then they proved they were wise. That's not weakness. That's civilization. The student looked at the images of the massive human fleet. I'm glad they didn't destroy us. So am I. On Earth, in a small school for orphans, an old man sat in a garden watching children play. Admiral Tay was 80 now. His hair was white. His hands shook sometimes, but his eyes were still clear. A Valnir child, maybe 7 years old, ran up to him. Grandfather Tay, Rin says you were in the war. Is that true? Tay smiled. The children called him grandfather, even though none were related to him. He liked that. Yes, I was there. Did you kill people? Some when I had to. Were you scared? Every day. The Valnir outpost at Kalar 4 was a minor colony. 2 million inhabitants, mostly military personnel and their families. It served as a supply depot for Dominion fleets operating in the outer territories. The defense platforms orbiting the planet were 30 years old. They had never fired a shot in combat. Commander Mina led the vanguard, 36 stealth frigates approaching in complete silence. The Valnir sensors didn't detect them until they were already in weapons range. By then it was too late. Targets locked, her weapons officer reported. All defense platforms marked. Fire. The stealth ships opened up with coordinated precision. The defense platforms exploded one by one, bright flowers of flame in the darkness. The entire defensive network was gone in 90 seconds. The Valnir garrison commander, Throck, stared at his displays in disbelief. How had the platforms been destroyed? His sensors showed nothing. No ships, no attack force. Just destruction appearing from nowhere. Then his communications board lit up. Every frequency, every channel. The same message repeating. Admiral Tay's face appeared on every screen in the Valnir Military Command Center. This is Admiral Tay of the United Earth Defense Fleet. 6 months ago, your forces destroyed the human colony of New Haven, killing 8 million civilians without warning or mercy. We have come for justice. His voice was calm, almost cold. You have 2 hours to evacuate all military personnel and their families. Take only what you can carry. Leave all weapons and military equipment. In 2 hours, we will destroy every military installation on this world. Anyone who remains at a military site will be considered hostile. Civilians staying in their homes will not be harmed. The transmission ended. Commander Throck laughed. It was absurd. Humans were weak colony builders. They had no military force capable of threatening a Valnir world. This had to be some kind of trick. Launch the defense fleet, he ordered. All ships. We'll crush these insects. 58 Valnir warships lifted from the surface in orbital docks. They moved to intercept something, anything. The sensors still showed empty space. Then the human fleet decloaked. 500 warships appeared at once, materializing like ghosts made solid. The Valnir crews froze. It wasn't possible. Humans didn't have ships like that. Didn't have numbers like that. All ships engage, Throck screamed. The Battle of Kellar 4 lasted 47 minutes. The Valnir fought with desperate courage, but they were outmatched in every way. Human weapons cut through their shields. Human tactics outmaneuvered their formations. Human ships danced through space with precision the aging Valnir craft couldn't match. When it ended, every Valnir warship was destroyed or disabled. The human casualties, 23 wounded, 0 dead. Scan for escape pods, Admiral Tay ordered. Recover any survivors. Sir, some Valnir are requesting permission to land at civilian sites, his communications officer reported. Grant it. They have the same 2 hours as everyone else. On the surface, chaos erupted. Military families rushed to vehicles fleeing the bases. Some Valnir officers refused to believe the warning. They stayed at their posts, prepared to fight. Others looked at the scans showing the massive human fleet and made the smart choice. They ran. Commander Throck was one who stayed. He stood in his command center, surrounded by a handful of loyal officers. "We are Valnir," he said. "We do not flee from inferior species." Exactly 2 hours after the warning, human kinetic bombardment began. Tungsten rods fell from orbit, striking military installations with devastating accuracy. Bases exploded. Ammunition depots erupted. Command bunkers collapsed. The humans had marked every military target on the planet, and they hit every single one. Commander Throck died when his command center was struck. He never understood what killed him. Just a flash, then nothing. The civilian areas remained untouched. Not a single civilian home was hit. Not one school or hospital. Only military targets. When the bombardment ended, Admiral Tay sent another transmission to the Valnir population. The military threat from this world has been eliminated. You are now under human authority until peace terms can be negotiated. Continue your normal lives. You will not be harmed. Food and medical supplies will be provided if needed. We are not here to hurt you. We are here to ensure you can never hurt us again. The Valnir civilians emerged from their shelters, expecting to see their cities destroyed. Instead, they found their homes intact. Only the military bases were gone, reduced to smoking craters. They spared us? A Valnir civilian whispered, staring at the undamaged buildings around her. Why would they do that? Another asked. We destroyed their world. Killed their people. No one had an answer. The human fleet moved on. Next target, Teskor Colony. Then Dravix. Then Korvax Station. The pattern repeated. Warning broadcast. Time to evacuate. Overwhelming assault. Only military targets destroyed. Captain Wu, now commanding a battle group, led the strike on Teskor. It was a harder fight. The Valnir garrison there was more modern, better equipped. They put up serious resistance. Multiple missiles inbound, Jin called from the pilot station. Evading! The ship shook as near misses exploded around them. Wu gripped his command chair. Return fire. Target their launch platforms. The battle raged through orbit and atmosphere. Jin's skills kept them alive, weaving through defensive fire. The human fighters were faster, more agile. They dominated the Valnir atmospheric craft. Enemy flagship is breaking orbit, weapons reported. They're trying to jump away. Disable their engines, Wu ordered. I want that ship intact. Precision strikes crippled the Valnir flagship's drive systems. It went dead in space, powerless. Wu sent boarding parties. Marine Commander Sung led the assault, his teams moving through the Valnir ship with practiced efficiency. They found the Valnir admiral in his ready room, surrounded by guards. The guards raised their weapons. Stand down, Sung said through his translator. Your ship is captured. Your fleet is destroyed. You can die here pointlessly, or you can surrender and face trial. The Valnir admiral looked at the human Marines. They wore powered armor, carried weapons he'd never seen before. His guards were outmatched, and they knew it. Why? The admiral asked. Why do you offer surrender? We would not. We know, Sung said. That's the difference. The admiral surrendered. Sung took him and his senior officers into custody. They would stand trial for war crimes. During the securing of the Valnir flagship, Sung found something interesting. A data core containing battle reports and strategic communications. He sent it to intelligence immediately. Commander Bin analyzed the captured data with growing satisfaction. The Valnir were panicking. Their outer colonies were falling faster than they could respond. Their military leadership was in chaos. And most interesting of all, their civilians were confused and frightened, but not by the humans. They were frightened by the questions humans raised. Look at this. Bin showed Admiral Tay. Intercepted civilian communications from Kalar 4. They're asking why we didn't kill them, why we only destroyed military targets. Some are starting to question the Dominion's propaganda about humans being weak savages. Tay studied the messages, fear mixed with confusion, shocked that the humans had shown restraint. Broadcast our intentions on Valnir frequencies, Tay decided. Let them know we're not here to exterminate them. We're here to stop their military from threatening others. The broadcast went out. On every captured world, humans provided aid to civilians who needed it. Medical supplies for the injured. Food for those who had none. Protection for the vulnerable. The Valnir population had never experienced conquerors like this. 3 months into the campaign, 8 outer Valnir colonies had fallen. Not a single civilian had been killed by human forces. The contrast to what happened at New Haven was stark and intentional. Humanity was making a point with every battle. On the Valnir homeworld of Valnora Prime, the High Command met in emergency session. Grand Regent Talvor presided over the meeting, his face showing the stress of constant defeats. How many worlds have we lost? He demanded. 8 outer colonies, 3 strategic stations, 15 major warships, hundreds of smaller craft. The military coordinator's voice shook. The humans are not slowing down. They hit us, destroy our defenses, then move on before we can concentrate forces against them. Why aren't they killing civilians? Another commander asked. It makes no sense. We showed them what real power looks like. They should be responding in kind. They're weak, Talvor said, but his voice lacked conviction. They lack the stomach for true war. Weak? The military coordinator pulled up battle reports. They destroyed our test corps defense fleet in 3 hours. Our weapons barely scratched their ships. Their tactics are superior. Their technology is better. And they're systematically dismantling our outer territories while taking almost no casualties. The room fell silent. The truth was sinking in. They had awakened something terrible, something they didn't understand. Recall all forces to the core worlds, Talvor finally ordered. We consolidate. We make them come to us. When they reach Valnora Prime, we'll have our entire fleet waiting. Let them try to break through that. What about the outer colonies? Someone asked. They're lost. Save what we can. Commander Bin intercepted the order within hours. He brought it to Admiral Tay immediately. They're pulling back, Bin reported, concentrating everything at their homeworld. They want a final battle. Valnora Prime hung in space like a blue-green jewel. The Valnir homeworld. 4 billion inhabitants, 600 years of empire. The heart of the Dominion. Around it, 700 Valnir warships waited in defensive formation. Every ship the Dominion had left. Every captain who still believed in their empire's superiority. They orbited their homeworld in layers, shields overlapping, weapons charged. The human fleet emerged at the edge of the system. 500 warships, battered from months of fighting but still strong, still determined. Admiral Tay stood on the Bridge of Justice watching Valnora Prime on his displays. So many lives down there, most of them had nothing to do with New Haven. Children, families, people just trying to live. But somewhere on that world, the people who ordered the massacre still breathed. The command structure that considered genocide an acceptable warning. They had to answer for what they'd done. Open all channels, Tay ordered. Let's give them one last chance. His face appeared on every screen across the Valnir fleet and on the planet below. This is Admiral Tay of the United Earth Defense Fleet. For 6 months, we have dismantled your military power. We have taken your colonies. We have destroyed your fleets. We did not come here for conquest. We came for justice. He paused. You murdered 8 million civilians on New Haven, killed them without warning, without mercy, without cause. Your Grand Regent and High Command must surrender to face trial for war crimes. Your military must stand down. If you do this, no more blood will be spilled. Your people will be safe. Your world will be unharmed. The transmission ended. Tay waited. On Valnora Prime, Grand Regent Talvor watched the human admiral's message. Around him, his high command officers argued. Some wanted to surrender. They'd seen the reports, knew what humanity was capable of, but Talvor had spent 600 years believing in Valnir superiority. That belief ran too deep to abandon now. We do not surrender, Talvor announced. We are Valnir. We built this empire through strength. We will die as conquerors, not as prisoners begging for mercy. He opened a channel to the human fleet. Human Admiral, you have won battles, but you have not won the war. You face our full might now. Our homeworld. Our final stand. Come if you dare. We will show you why the Valnir Dominion has ruled for centuries. The channel closed. Tay sighed. He'd known this would be the answer, but he'd had to try. All ships, he broadcasted to the human fleet. Battle stations. Execute Plan Omega-7. Remember, our target is the military only. Every shot matters. Every life matters. Make them count. The fleets moved toward each other. The Battle of Valnora Prime began with a massive exchange of long-range fire. Missiles and energy weapons crossed the dark space between the forces. Point defense systems lit up, trying to intercept incoming fire. Ships began taking damage on both sides. Commander Mina led her stealth group on a flanking maneuver, trying to get behind the Valnir defensive lines. The Valnir had learned from previous battles. They'd adapted. This time they were watching for stealth ships using new sensors. They see us, Mina's tactical officer shouted as Valnir ships turned to intercept. All ships full burn. Get to the target coordinates before they can lock weapons. Mina's group accelerated, racing through space as fire exploded around them. Captain Wu commanded the carrier group, launching wave after wave of fighters. Jin piloted the lead fighter, weaving through defensive fire with incredible skill. Multiple bogies incoming, Jin reported. Valnir fighters. Lots of them. The space battle became a chaotic mess of dogfighting craft. Human fighters used their superior agility to outmaneuver the Valnir ships, but the Valnir had numbers and were fighting to defend their home. Stay focused, Jin broadcasted to his wing. Watch your shields. Don't get cocky. The battle raged for 16 hours. Both sides took heavy losses. Human ships burned. Valnir ships exploded. The space around Valnora Prime became a graveyard. Engineer Ara's plasma lance frigates finally broke through the Valnir middle line. Their focused fire cut through shields that had held against conventional weapons. Target the flagship, Tay ordered. Disable it. I want Talvor alive. The plasma lances concentrated fire on the Grand Regent's ship. Shields flickered. Failed. The massive vessel took hit after hit, its engines dying, power systems failing. But it remained intact. They've lost propulsion, sensors reported. The flagship is dead in space. Cease fire on that ship. Send boarding teams. Marine Commander Sung prepared his forces. This would be the hardest fight yet. The Grand Regent would be protected by the Dominion's best troops. They'd fight to the death. Remember your training, Sung told his Marines as they loaded into assault shuttles. They'll be desperate. Stay sharp. The shuttles launched toward the crippled flagship. Valnir Point Defense tried to stop them, but most of the ship's weapons were offline. The shuttles burned through the hull and Marines poured in. The fighting inside the Valnir flagship was brutal. The Dominion guards fought with fanatical determination. They knew what surrender meant: trials, prison, the end of their empire. Better to die. Sung's Marines advanced slowly, using superior equipment and tactics to overcome the defenders. The corridors ran with blood. Both sides took casualties, but the humans kept pushing forward. They reached the command center to find it barricaded. Heavy doors, force fields, every defensive measure the Valnir had. Bring up the plasma cutters, Sung ordered. It took 30 minutes to burn through. When the doors finally collapsed, Sung led his team inside. Grand Regent Talvor stood in the center of his command room, surrounded by his high command. They were armed, ready to fight. You will not take us alive, Talvor said. You don't have a choice. Sung raised his weapon. Your fleet is destroyed. Your ship is disabled. You've lost. Put down your weapons and you'll face trial. Fight and you'll die here. Either way, this is over. For a long moment, no one moved. Then one of the Valnir officers lowered his weapon. Then another. They were soldiers, not fanatics. They could see there was no point. Talvor stood alone, still holding his weapon. He looked at his officers, seeing them surrender. Seeing his empire crumble. Why? He asked quietly. Why do you offer mercy? We showed you none. Because we're not you, Sung said. And because the galaxy needs to see that justice is possible without genocide. Talvor dropped his weapon. He looked old suddenly, tired. I do not understand humans. You should have tried before you attacked us. The Valnir High Command was taken into custody. The battle in orbit wound down as Valnir ships began surrendering. Some fought to the end, but most, seeing their leaders captured and their cause lost, gave up. The cost had been high. 12,000 human casualties, 400 Valnir ships destroyed, thousands of Valnir military personnel dead, but no civilians. Not one civilian home had been hit. The humans had kept their word. Admiral Tay broadcast to the planet below. The battle is over. Your military has surrendered. The war is done. Remain in your homes. You will not be harmed. We will establish temporary authority until a peace agreement can be reached. Anyone who interferes with peacekeeping operations will be detained, but you will not be hurt unless you threaten others. On the surface, Valnir civilians watched human ships land. They expected occupation, expected brutality, expected to be treated the way the Dominion treated conquered species. Instead, human soldiers secured military facilities and left civilians alone. They set up aid stations, provided medical care for wounded Valnir military personnel, treated prisoners with basic dignity. This makes no sense, a Valnir civilian said, watching humans help injured Valnir soldiers. Why are they doing this? Maybe, another replied quietly. This is why they won. Across the Dominion, remaining military forces surrendered within 48 hours. Without leadership, without hope. The war was over. Tay stood on his bridge looking at casualty reports. 12,000 humans dead, good people who volunteered to stop an evil. Their families would grieve. Their loss would be felt forever, but 8 million on New Haven would never be forgotten either. Their deaths had been answered, not with matching cruelty, but with justice. Sir, transmission from Earth, communications reported. It's Rin, she's asking to speak with you. Tay accepted the call. Rin's face appeared older now than when he'd first met her. Still a child, but one who'd seen too much. Admiral Tay, did we win? She asked. Yes, Rin, we won. Did you hurt people like they hurt us? Tay thought carefully about his answer. We hurt the ones who chose to fight. We didn't hurt the ones who wanted peace. We kept our promise, Rin nodded slowly. Good, I'm glad. I didn't want more children to lose their families. Neither did we. The call ended. Tay looked out at Valnora Prime. The war was over. Now came the harder part. Building peace.